Okay, hey everyone, welcome to an episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today I have a really cool update for you guys from the brand Erebus, founded and driven by Jody Musgrove of YouTube's Just One More Watch. Just One More Watch is probably how I should have pronounced it. And his partner and avid collector, Stephen Parker. Now, they essentially aim to offer the best made watches with the best specifications at the best prices, and all with a personal service and attention to clients that you really don't get from the big brands. So I can appreciate that in terms of the type of watch. This is a traveler's watch. Some key characteristics. It's not like you're looking for something you can wear while you're on the go. Of course, you're going to either want to find that GMT or world timer functionality so that you can track multiple time zones with relative ease. This is their Ascent 40 GMT in the white dial variation, which is currently sold out, but I was still excited to get my hands on this piece to share with you all. This is essentially their go anywhere, do anything Orgata sports watch upgraded into a legit traveler's slash adventure watch, thanks to that flyer style GMT equipped with a jumping local hour hand. And in terms of the aesthetic here, guys, this thing looks great. It's essentially Grand Seiko meets Rolex elevated tool watch aesthetic, and I can't get enough of it. I have a Grand Seiko that has very, very similar aesthetics to this, which also it kind of derives and is a play of that Rolex Explorer II. So seeing something like this at a much more affordable price point, especially with some of these fine details, especially when you look at the beveling and the micro finishes on the handset, it is very impressive. Now, in terms of the price point, guys, $599 direct as configured, which I think is quite impressive. So with all that said, let's go ahead and zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Okay, guys, now again, those aesthetics, very much Grand Seiko meets Rolex, and I'm here for it. It looks really fantastic. I love the details, the size, the scale. It all comes together quite beautifully, especially across that glossy white dial with, again, the more traditional kind of explorer or polar stylings in terms of that colorway. Now, in terms of the dimensions here, guys, 40 millimeters in diameter, 12.7 millimeters thick, and that is including the crystal, 46.1 millimeters lug to lug, and these are all measured up from my own calipers. So of course online you might find more rounded numbers, but I'm just going to give it to you like I find it. And then this is 316L stainless steel, polished with brushed accents, and I have to say the transitions are nice and sharp. Not sharp to the touch, but sharp to the eye in terms of that nice crisp high definition. Now, in terms of the crystal, it's a low double dome sapphire with an inner anti-reflective coating, so you're going to get a very nice amount of clarity there. You're not going to get a lot of distortion even at harsh angles, so very nice from a legibility standpoint. And of course, this piece in general is highly legible thanks to the high polish contrasting against that white backdrop. Now, you do have a fixed 24-hour bezel, which again is something that has been very popularized thanks to the Rolex Explorer II, and it works here very much. And then you do have a screw down crown, which is nicely signed, and you can see those bevels here that are just beautifully thick. Again, more within the vein of a Grand Seiko in terms of some of that case architecture. Let me give it a quick little wipe here off camera, even a little dust off there, but check that out. Look at that transitioning on that deep glossy bevel. Very nice contrast against that satinized brushing there, which is quite handsome and well executed. Now getting to the movement, although you can't see it behind that case back there. Well, let's get it to focus here. There we go. Very nice little case back, right? Stamped and etched. But inside of there, you're going to have your automatic Miyota 9075 Traveler's GMT or Flyer's GMT, which essentially means that you can jump the local hour hand. I'll demo that very quickly. So we'll pull it out to the first position. And yeah, if I was to go from California to the East Coast, boom, and then I fly back, and I never had to lose my place or worry about rehacking the seconds hand. So very nice from that perspective. You're going to get that 42-hour power reserve with a 4 hertz, full 4 hertz sweep at 28,800 vibrations per hour. So very nice smooth beat rate. In terms of the dial, again, you get that glossy dial. You have these applied indices. You have the frame date at 6 o'clock, which most people prefer if they're going to do a date because of that additional added symmetry. Now, you're getting polished and bevel hands. Guys, let's pay attention to this handset. Look at the handset, multi-finished, beautifully detailed. These are a sight to see at this price point. It is very, very impressive. And you know what? Maybe it's rare because most brands know that not all folks are going to appreciate something like that. But for me, as a collector, you know, as an enthusiast, those are the little touches and flourishes that I look for that really draw me in and keep me interested. So, and then we get into, of course, the Lume here, which is going to be Super Luminova BGW9. So nice and crisp and white, presenting in the daylight, but in the darkness, you're going to have a nice blue hue. You're also going to get 100 meters of water resistance or 10 atmospheres, especially, you know, the fact that it does have a screw down crown, which is going to give me more confidence. So very confidence inspiring 100 meters, which is going to be more than enough for pretty much any situation that you're going to have this in. 20 millimeter lug width, guys. Look at the solid end link there. 3D, beautifully milled. Very, very nicely executed there. Tolerance is nice and tight on the end link where it meets the case. You're going to get that quick release spring bar equipped end links as well. Of course, you're going to have these nice 3-link kind of oyster styling here that does taper from 20 millimeters down to 16. And you're also going to get half links as well, which is a nice touch in terms of dialing in that fitment. And then you're going to have this milled about 18.4 millimeter milled push button clasp, nicely signed. Also, you know, milled folding scissor section there. And then you're even going to get this clasp with 4 positions of toolless micro adjustment. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 clicks. Okay, there's all the way extended, and then 4 clicks in. So very nice in terms of the you know, ergonomics and wearing profile. But with that said, let's actually get it on the wrist and see how it wears. Okay, as you can see on my 7.5-inch wrist or 19 centimeter circumference wrist, this sits really quite nicely. Of course, if I get my wrist a bit too close to the camera lens, you're gonna notice a fair amount of perspective distortion. All of a sudden, the watch seems a bit larger. Look at that. The case seems larger, and the sides of my wrist fall away along with the sides of the bracelet, making the watch seem maybe slightly oversized. But if I keep my wrist nice and low, check that out. All of a sudden, this looks a lot closer to what you might experience with the naked eye. So I'll keep my wrist there, tighten up the frame here so you guys can get still a detailed look, but just add a bit of a truer aspect ratio as how this may lay on your own wrist. And check that out. Very, very handsome. Look at those organic curves and cutouts, beautifully beveled. Just flows very, very nicely, especially considering that it is a bit of a mashup in terms of different design ethos there. And again, I think it comes together thematically quite well. Look at that. I mean, of course, when you're thinking about a GMT, you're never really necessarily thinking about thinness, because with that heightened hand stack to fit the extra hand, you know, you're going to get typically a bit more height here. Look at the way that lays. Look at these proportions. They are really, really quite dialed in. And of course, look at the legibility here, even at a harsh angle. So I think this is a fantastic looking watch. Yeah, I know not everybody knows who Erebus is, but those who do are typically going to be watch enthusiasts, which is great, because the watch enthusiasts are also going to be the ones who know why a Rolex is so good, and they also know why a Grand Seiko is so good. So that market, right, that demographic actually makes a lot of sense in terms of really dialing. Oh, hey. Excuse me. Thank you for the blessings in the comments. I appreciate you very much. But yeah, check that out, guys. I think this is a great looking timepiece. But with that said, let's get it off the wrist, set up for some Lume shots, low light transition, and closing thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. Okay, check that out. Look at that Lume. Absolutely fantastic. And this is not a dive watch, although again, with that elevated water resistance plus the security of a screw down crown to make sure that all of those seals are fully engaged, you're going to have a timepiece that is very, very robust and water resistant. But one thing I always like to work in is going to be a bit of a low light transition, because you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of times you're going to find yourself coming out of buildings, walking underneath overhangs, or just hanging out underneath the shade of a tree. So it's nice to see what these colors, textures, and finishes render like in less than optimal lighting. And guys, this is a classic colorway. The polar white dial with that pop of high contrast, high visibility orange really do something special. And of course, right as I'm mentioning that, the minute and that GMT hand overlap, and you can't see the orange as much. But this watch is going to look great on an orange NATO strap, on an orange, if you want to take it elevated, make it high end, right? You can even put this on an Artem sailcloth. They're one of their FKM hybrid sailcloths that are gonna be quite expensive. The loopless design, but honestly, really suit this piece in terms of just that nice balance of elevated nature as well as just pure functional goodness. So it's nice. I'm already kind of fantasizing about wearing this one with a couple of different strap combinations, and I'm a huge bracelet guy, so I think that is pretty fun that you do get that. And guys, look at that contrast. Very, very legible, whether you're using the Lume or not, right? So Lume wise, no Lume, back to the Lume, somewhere in the middle, still quite legible and functional, and I dig that. And look at the beveling, look at the play on the handset. It just comes together, guys. I wish I could say I designed this, but I didn't. But it's good. So hats off to the Erebus team. In terms of closing thoughts, guys, on the wrist, great proportions, very comfortable and balanced wear. In terms of model variants, there are 9 different dial options. Of course, they're not all still available at the time of filming this, but do check the site links down in the description so you can check out for yourself. In terms of comparable models, guys, this undercuts even comparable micro brands. Because a lot of micro brands that have this movement in their watches, either they're going to be doing very limited runs, or they're charging quite a bit to help kind of regulate that supply and demand, and usually kind of placing it as a very premium offering. Whereas here, I'm not to say that $600 isn't cheap, but $599 for something that looks this good with this level of attention to detail, with a team that is so charismatic and fun in terms of their storytelling, I think there's a lot to love. So, and of course, this is still additional levels cheaper than mainstream big brand competitors. Again, it reminds me of very much of a cross between my SBGM245 Grand Seiko GMT and the iconic Rolex Explorer II. So for me, guys, bottom line, this $600 watch has it all, besides a hard coating if you're into that sort of thing, and even a great story, as I mentioned, especially considering the folks that are behind it, enthusiast based, and even with a fun story in terms of where they're located. It's just not your average microbrand pop-up story, and I like that. So when you consider Jody's journey, from just one more watch and his whole YouTube channel, and how he's been able to leverage all of this into really creating a brand with, again, a very close friend and business partner of his now, I think it's really hard to kind of deny this piece. It's the only problem is that it's sold out right now. The good news is there are other colorways that aren't, and those colorways all look awesome too, and will be just as versatile, if not even more so. But for me, this particular colorway just really paid off and scratches a very, very specific and special itch. But let me know what you all think down in the comments below. If you like the video, please hit like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.